What up, people? You know what time it is. We are back. Man, it's almost time to go fully
It's getting
to
time.
week to week. But you know what it is, man. No introductions. It's Rodney, it's Jay.
That was an introduction,
Aren't
by the way.
you know what I mean? I used to go all out, this is Jay and this but the people
It's
know
a
who we are
short
now. So
intro. It's a short intro.
yeah. But you know how it is. But we here and we about to talk some good fantasy because
Hey,
we got a draft coming up in a couple weeks and it's about to get crazy. It's about to get serious out here now. So hey, you got to tighten up and tune in. Like and subscribe, please. Let your people know. Hey, we here.
yeah, good
What's
to
going
have
on, man?
everybody, man. It's been good. It's been a rough work week, but I got some time off coming up, starting
Yes.
tomorrow. So I'm gonna enjoy myself after all the work I've done recently. So, like you said, we got drafts coming up. Fantasy football is basically about to get going for us. We got a
Yes.
dynasty. We've done mock drafts the past 2 weeks, and now we have a dynasty, which we can't really. It's hard to really mock for that because
Done.
like all the no, there's no way you can simulate what players are available in your individual league. So it's gonna be interesting to
Yeah.
see how it goes. But we
Hey man, I just feel like that's to me that's like the warm up and
yeah,
then that kind of it kicks it in gear.
just
So
to get your mind right, you know.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You got see because once you get that wheel turning with that draft, it's like you already in motion to go for the next one now. So it's like, man, I can't wait, man, just to kind of get right and just get going because I know it's gonna be some players I ain't gonna get, but it's gonna be some of them get
yeah.
though. So it is what it is, man. It's about to be fun though, man. We're gonna tune it up real quick, man.
Not just
Real talk.
fun fantasy football. It's about to be fun here. We our summer off season schedules coming to a close. So
Oh
if you've been
yeah,
out there struggling with the is this the week they're on or off and on, hey, we about to be on every week with
every
some good
week,
football
people.
to talk about.
Oh
Hey,
yeah, it's gonna be interesting, boy. I tell you that,
yeah, like,
man.
interesting football news already. If you want to jump right
Oh
into
gosh,
your team,
yeah.
make it.
I don't
Y'all
know.
been in the
I don't.
news this whole off season.
I don't know what's going on, man. I think everybody wants to get paid, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I look at it this way: we go to the Super Bowl, and you get that money for the home games and all that stuff, and the team looking like, look, man, we ain't winning. I want to get paid. But I also think the way they structure in these
Yeah,
contracts, I think is a problem. Because the news today came out that Trent Williams wanted to trade. Well, not trade. I'm sorry. He wanted to redo his contract because
right.
he has no guaranteed money. But the way they did his contract originally was 3 years guaranteed, and the other three were
Mm-hmm.
not guaranteed. So they had kind of an out in case Trent Williams wasn't Trent Williams. But we know Trent Williams is always Trent Williams. But
Right.
now they got to face the fact and they got to pay him because if you go back to last year, with those 3 games where we lost three in a row, you got to
Mm-hmm.
think Trent Williams was a big portion of that because he won't there.
Right.
So it's like it don't look good when Trent ain't there. So
And that's all he needs to go into the negotiating room with. Like, watch
yeah,
the tape of these 3 games when you had all those other scrubs on the offensive line. Look how good Brock Purdy looked versus when I'm there, and
oh my
what
gosh,
can you
man,
do
our,
but not
our
win?
O line is terrible with him out not out there. So it's like what we got to do. Now
Uh huh.
he jumps Brandon Ayuk in the pecking order to get paid.
Yeah, he
So
definitely does.
I don't know. He's 36, about to be 37. Um, do you give him 3 years guaranteed?
He's not playing 3 years. It's like I
That's
can't.
what I'm saying.
There's no possible way he makes it past 2 years. I don't. He might not make it after this year. So I can't see giving him that kind of money.
I mean, what if he's saying, "Look, I need these last 3 years to be guaranteed because obviously they're not, but I need them to be guaranteed. So I'll give you the next 3 years, but I don't know if he's like you said. I don't know if he's gonna make
No.
those 3 years. It's like maybe he's trying to get him some guaranteed money. So once he retired, they gotta pay him that money.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the books for it. But I don't know, man. It's a sticky situation out there in San Francisco as
Yeah.
because I be watching the like a lot of the podcasters that follow the 49ers, and one of the guys, he actually is a reporter. He's at camp,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, Trent was like, man, I ain't coming. Ain't no need for me to be there. Like, we'll see. And then you got Ayuk walking around. He not practicing, so it's like, it's kind of sticky, man. I don't know, and I think a lot of it's because Brock is gonna get paid next year, so
Right.
they trying to save money for Brock, and we're gonna be $39 million over the cap next year so far, and we got about 43 free agents next year between the offense and the defense.
Uh,
I was like, it's gonna be a totally looking like the team gonna
it's
be
gonna
different
be,
next year.
yeah.
So everybody trying to get their money on the way out. I'm assuming.
Everybody
I
trying
don't
to,
know.
like you said, the paychecks got to come out next year. So I think everyone's trying to get their money while they still can. Because if they don't get it now,
Hmm.
there's nothing like you. Because the 49ers are trying to save money for next year. Everybody else is trying to get their money before next year. So they're just at odds between players in that front office. So it's gonna be wild to see what that 49ers team looks like.
Well, I think a lot of, and I say this a lot. They paid CMC and they shouldn't have. And I know
Uh,
people don't want to hear that. But he was getting paid $12 million a year. Now, I won't guarantee, but it ain't like they was gonna go out there and just say, "Oh, CMC, you know what? We don't need you no more, bro. We just gonna cut you." They're not doing that. So what they gonna do? They would have still paid him $12 million. That's what I'm saying. He would have got paid.
yeah.
It just he's probably looking at, if I get hurt, serious injury, I might not make it to next year with the team or whatever.
Hmm.
And I get it. If you want to, from a financial standpoint, you want to look past this year, but you hold out 4 days, they pay you. That's not a good
That's
look when you're not going to pay somebody else when they hold out. That's all I'm
it
saying.
was basically the office showing where their priorities are, who they think is the most important piece of that offense. And it's hard to argue after the season CMC last year. He's
Yeah,
definitely an important piece of the puzzle, but to your point, hey, Trent Williams is another important piece. So they got it's gonna be fun. Hey, welcome Nita to the show. Sorry the rain got you, but we glad you're here
I
watching the
mean, but
show. But
it's
yeah,
if you had to take a poll, because CMC was in that game, those three
uh
games
huh.
that we lost. Trent Williams wasn't, and we lost those games because Trent Williams, who's a left tackle by the way, wasn't there. So it's like, is CMC more important than Trent Williams?
That's close. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no, but it's
Well, that's what I'm
close. It's
saying. Think
close.
about it. You lose
Offensive
three in a
linemen are
row.
never gonna get that kind of
That
credit, but I think he probably is a bit more important because hey, CMC was playing those games that they lost. So,
that's what I'm
so
saying.
yeah,
He was in those games that we
you're
lost.
right.
So it ain't like he was the savior and we won those games. No, he was in the games and we
He was
lost. And
in
he
the
really,
game,
if
so yeah,
I
it's
don't think he ran pretty well those games, to be honest with you.
hard to run with a bad offensive line. So
That's hey. So I don't know, man. Whatever it comes down to, I just think is personally is bad for the season to start off
yeah.
with when you got people who want to get paid and not showing up. Hopefully we get it right and we kind of right the ship early before the season start. But if Trent Williams miss any time, bro, we are doomed.
Those are automatic L's. Uh,
Yeah, we are doomed.
I see Nita's comment. Yeah, I definitely want to get to this Joe Barrow haircut thing.
Yeah.
But let's before we leave your team, not the, hey, gonna make this the 49ers show. Um, Bill Belichick also
ah,
is associated with it. You guys like have been. This is y'all week. Y'all been in the news
bro.
for like everything. What you think? He turned down the job. Kyle Shanahan trying to get him on the staff. Why
Well,
doesn't he want to
first
be
of
part
all,
of the Niners franchise?
why would you want to go somewhere and coach, being a defensive coordinator? Like he offered him any job,
Yeah,
pretty much.
anything he
Any
wanted to
job he
do.
wanted.
He should
But
have
he
said
was
head
like,
coach. Like,
I mean, but like, what if? I know people don't. I'm not. I like Shanahan, but
yeah,
sometimes Shanahan can be that guy where if I win, I'm getting credit for it,
mm-hmm.
type thing. And I think that kind of rubs people the wrong way with Shanahan. I feel like Belichick, especially Belichick, is an East Coast guy.
Yeah,
Let's keep it real. So being on the West Coast is not his thing.
true.
And on top of that, I don't. He wants to be a head coach. I don't think he wants to be a defensive coordinator
Mm-hmm.
because he don't. The thing is, he don't need the 49ers. He can not coach no more and go be on a show and talk football for the rest of his life. So he don't need it. He wants to coach,
Yeah,
but I think his best play is to coach next year
yeah.
in like Philly or whatever, Dallas, somewhere like that on the East Coast. So that way he can coach. But I didn't see him taking the job, honestly.
I think the best thing for him is to sit out for a year, let the stench
Yeah,
of that Tom Brady-less Patriots season go by. He's going to be commentating this year. He's going to be looking like a genius because hey, he
of
knows the
course.
game, and so he can take that commentator role, not unlike JJ Redick did recently, put that right into being a
Yeah,
coach. Like I said, he'll be I think back in the league next season,
of
and
course.
he wants to break this record, Don Shula's record for wins from coaching. So, hey,
I say
it just
Dallas.
won't be with the 49ers. Unless y'all completely plummet this year, then he does get the head coaching job for the
Nah,
49ers. But I don't see that
Shannon,
happening. I think y'all going to be
Shanahan just
good
signed.
this year.
Shanahan just signed a new 6-year deal.
Yeah,
He ain't going
he ain't
nowhere.
going. All right,
Nah,
let's talk Joe Burrow. People say he looks like Eminem. I don't see that. But
I don't see that.
do
But
you think the haircut and the blonde dye takes away from what made Joe Burrow great? Is he gonna be able to be a good quarterback this year?
I don't think a hair color changes
You know,
anything. I think
hey,
you need to worry about not being hurt.
hey,
So
hair
that
affected Samson. For all
yeah,
we know, the haircut is gonna run. Right, he has a problem staying healthy. If
yeah.
he could do, maybe this change, he want to change up the whole image.
I
So
don't know. Maybe he did, but to me it's different. I mean, I guess like that money. It's like you want to do with it. What are you doing with it? Like, so he probably just wanted some type of statement in and do. I don't know. But
what do you give the haircut on a 1 to 10 scale?
I ain't got no hair, so I can't judge it. I can't judge it. So
Okay.
I ain't because I want some hair. I'm mad. It's like I do it, so I'm just gonna let it be. It's
That's
cool. I
fair.
mean, everybody want to do their thing. It is what it is. Where football can stand. I hair comes that much, but be.
What else
So
did the NFL happening?
see, holding out. You take.
Who didn't see this coming? I'm ready. As interested as I am in the 49ers front office problems this off season, I'm even more interested in the Cowboys because they seem to not care at all. It's like Jerry
Yeah,
Jones is doing nothing with anybody who is asking for money this year, like just oblivious to the whole situation. So I'm interested to see what's the pecking order on guys
who
getting
gets?
signed
I was
for
about to
the
ask you
minimum.
that. Who gets paid first?
I think CD Lamb has to be probably the priority. I
Okay.
think
Okay.
for what he brings to the office, and that could just be my fantasy football perspective. Uh, bringing it in there. I don't. I think
Okay.
I say this. I think Dak Prescott is probably last in the pecking order
Hmm.
uh, because
That's interesting.
look, he's hey, just we're doing overrated, underrated. Just know
Yeah,
Dak Prescott is going to be in my conversation later in the show. But I
makes
think
sense.
from the Cowboys situation, they 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 need the defense squared away, and Mikel is the defense. They need CeeDee Lamb as their long term solution. Dak
Hmm.
Prescott, I don't think people value him as much as they probably should,
Okay.
and so I think
Is
he
that because of the playoff losses or just the disaster
I
he
don't.
that
Hey, it's
that he
as
does in
much
the
as I don't
playoffs?
like the Cowboys, and I think
Hmm.
they're a joke of a franchise because of a lot of the stuff that Jerry Jones does. They have a certain bar for success that Dak has not been able to cut, and I think they probably have the idea that they can stick somebody else because it's not too many years ago when Dak was hurt. You
Yeah.
heard fans saying, "Hey, let's
Calling for
replace him with
yeah.
the backup guy whose name I can't even think of right now,
Cooper
Cooper
Rush.
Rush." Exactly,
Yeah.
and I don't think Jerry Jones is that different in his mind, thinking, "Hey, this guy hasn't cut the mustard. I'm not paying him $60 million to
Whew.
lose in the playoffs.
Honestly, I think you got to pay CD Lamb,
Yeah,
honestly, but I'm not saying paying Dak. I think Dak is. If they would have paid Dak, and I've been saying this all summer, if they would have paid Dak, they would have paid him already. So it's nothing's going to change at this point,
hmm
in my opinion, because they say, "Well, we trying to hammer out." I don't think so. I think that's something you telling the media
yeah,
to kind of smooth it over so they can get off your back. But I'm not. I don't see them paying Dak.
yeah.
Uh,
At all, or
because
you think they?
mm-mm. I don't even think Dak takes a hometown discount. I
I
wouldn't.
wouldn't. No. Eh,
I'm just saying, I wouldn't take a hometown discount. I would want to get paid, but it's like they don't want to pay him because
right.
of the resume in the playoffs. Like he looks great in the regular season, but it's the other stuff, like when it's time for the playoffs to start and you kind of a no show. You don't show up for
Yeah.
those games. So I understand it, and they think either somebody can crash. I would say they're hard to.
It's that's one of the hardest positions, and like cornerback,
Yeah.
hardest to replace. So that's why you see a Daniel Jones, for instance, get a $40 million because getting semi competent court, and we can debate whether
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Jones is semi
That,
competent, but
yeah. That's,
just getting average play can be a challenge.
well, and that thing, he's a good quarterback. It's
Yeah,
he just don't get it done when they need to be done, and he I don't know. To me, they not gonna pay him, and I think they gonna the season gonna it's probably gonna be a horrible season for Dallas
yeah,
just in general because they have no talent, and they depending on an old running back and Zeke to kind of
yeah. That's where they're really going to be struggling. I think they've
yeah.
got that's a talented team. I don't think it's managed well, especially with their head coach,
I mean,
uh,
but when you say talented, outside of you out of
Mark
Dak,
Parsons.
Parson, corner, I forget his
Diggs is
name,
good.
yeah,
No.
but out of I know they lost three old linemen
Yeah,
this year.
tight end Jake Ferguson's good.
Yeah, Jake first.
They got talented players in a bunch of different positions, and hey, they make they don't do anything when they get there, but they make it to the
Yeah,
playoffs, and they're in contention to win that division.
they play in the
Well,
NFC
yeah,
East. I mean,
hey,
it ain't really saying. I mean, I'm just saying. Like I mean, we'll see. I think he's gonna get paid. He's getting paid. What I think he's holding
yeah,
at 17.8. He wants to get 30, 34 a year,
yeah,
something like. Jefferson's at 33, 33 and some change. I think he wanted Jefferson this in the pecking order. So about 34, 35, which is a lot for. But that's the going rate for a receiver nowadays because ain't paying nobody else
yeah.
on that team. So I don't know. It's strange. Speaking of quarterbacks, and we just got I think I got one more. Jordan Love.
Okay.
I had a
Also
discussion with
trying to
somebody
get.
earlier,
Uh huh.
and it was saying Jordan Love don't deserve $50 million. But I was trying to tell this person, you know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I was like, you get paid on what you can do in the future, if that makes sense. So they pay you for, eh, okay, Jordan Love did well last. We see potential in Jordan Love, so they paying you for potential.
Mm-hmm.
They not because he played 18 games. First eight he was the second for the season.
This is
That's
more.
looking at. They look from where great second improved. So now basically we need to come before we get
Mm-hmm.
for primary. That did much over the last 2 3 years. Trevor Lawrence got paid on what he possibly could do.
Very good. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think. But he was like, nah, basically, it's 8 games or whatever. But still,
Hey, I know one thing. Only one quarterback threw for more touchdowns than Jordan Love did last year. And it's the guy we just finished talking about, Dak Prescott. So
yeah,
he had over 4,000 yards. He had 32 touchdowns a
yeah,
year ago. That's that's dynamic, and it looks like at least the Packers could have three, maybe dare I say, Hall of Fame
Playing
quarterbacks
quarterback,
in a row.
which is
Uh,
which is pretty
so
wild here.
we just said it's hard to get even average quarterback play. Hey,
Hmm.
I'm Raiders. There you go. So hey,
Yeah,
I would tell Davis to pay Jordan Love anything he wants to have that kind of quarterback uh, in Las Vegas right now. So hey,
I
I
mean, I
think
say
they
pay
they
him,
better
man.
write the paycheck for
And I like what they doing
him. Yeah,
because they telling him not to go on the field until we sign
until
this
they work it
deal.
out.
So we don't want you to practice and get hurt because we want you on the field for the
Mm-hmm.
regular season. So we're gonna wait until you. And then another thing is they waiting to give him his money, so they telling him to sit down. We got you, which is you got to applaud that because most
Yeah,
GMs won't even do that. They'll be like, all right, we need you to practice, but
they're
we
looking big
also
picture, right?
yeah. So I mean, I think that's a good thing in that sense too. So I think Joe Love deserved to get paid. Because I was saying like, okay, he's been on the bench for 4 years, and then of course you expect him to struggle the first half
Mm-hmm.
anyway, just to kind of get his feet wet and understand the league and play. Because that you can't get better without playing. I
No,
hate this notion of quarterbacks need to sit 2 years because they can learn some back on the mix. I don't know, man. I feel like I'm waiting. Hope he get paid all the money he deserves. I'm all for people getting paid. So
hey, I'm look. I want to get paid, so I ain't mad at these guys doing it. Before we get to the overrated, underrated one, I got one. I don't know if you had another, but I had one more
oh
news
no, you
thing.
good.
I sent you. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. The
No,
top 25 fantasy football players of this past 25 years.
I
Uh,
didn't look at it because I had got busy. But let me see. I can pull it up, man. Let me
Yeah.
see.
Well, I say there was some cool names in it. If you've been playing fantasy football for a few years, like we have, you look down that list. I was like, oh yeah, I remember the days. But without even looking at it yet, when you probably already pulled it up, you can probably guess who the number one guy was.
Ladanian.
Ladainian Tomlinson, and that had me think because remember in
Who's
the
that?
SMFL league,
Ladanian was the
it
man,
started off
bro.
as a keeper league, and Ladainian Tomlinson was my keeper for many years before people wanted
Ladanian
to
was
quit.
probably the
That's
best
the
ever in
best
fantasy
ever.
football. Ever.
Yeah, it's hard to find a name better than LT.
Yeah,
Uh,
Ladanian was probably he was the CMC before
you
CMC.
was you 100% right there.
A lot of people don't know that. He
I
was he was he was ahead of his time, to be honest
yes,
with
he
you. He would,
was.
and the crazy part is, Ladainian would destroy this era of football.
Oh yeah, he look
Easy.
and think about what Austin Eckler did on that same team.
Oh
Yo,
gosh, yo, like think
If Ladainian had the opportunities in today's NFL,
he
like
would be
crush,
thousand
he'd be
thousand each
crushing
year,
it
easy. And
on a regular basis.
he was a bigger version than Eckler,
Yeah,
to be honest with you.
and he was
So
an actual running. No offense to Austin Eckler, Ladainian was an actual running
actual
back.
running back, yeah,
So what I'm saying, he had skills all around on that joker. I
that's
remember
why I
many
say,
a 4 touchdown game he would
oh
bring me,
gosh,
and I was winning.
I
Uh,
ain't gonna say he made Philip Rivers, but I'm gonna say he made Philip Rivers.
yeah, Philip Rivers ain't
Yeah,
Philip Rivers without
without
Ladainian
Ladainian,
Tomlinson
yeah.
and
So
Antonio Gates. So
yeah,
hey,
so that's why I say he was ahead of his time a whole lot. Um, I can't put a list up right quick, but
yeah,
another one that I think should have been on the list, but will be on my list is Darren Sproles.
he didn't make the list. It's funny. I was talking to our producer about that before. I was like, I know why he didn't make the list because he's not that name, but Darren Sproles was that dude you could just
Darren
sneak in.
Sproles. I'm trying to tell you,
Yes.
I tell people, yo, and
Underrated,
I used to
especially if you
draft
were in
that.
the league. They gave you return yard
Oh
points.
gosh, bro, I used to draft Darren Sproles like it was nobody's business, and I used to get him late too. And it's
Exactly.
like everybody
Exactly.
would. And the crazy part is Darren Sproles would finish in the top five of running backs
Yeah.
like every year, and they'd be like, "Well, how he end up there?" I say because he had
He did
800 yards
everything:
rushing, he had
rushing,
900 yards
receiving, return
receiving,
yards.
400 yards and a couple touchdowns receiving. He punt return for another 800 yards. He did everything across the
Everything.
board. And it's like, and I used to win games with him, bro. It's like
Yeah.
Darren Sproles used to give you about 35 a game. And it was like, you getting Darren Sproles. Everybody still get the Derrick Henrys of the world
Ah.
early. Oh my gosh,
You
bro.
get
I
all
would
these
sit
guys.
back.
You would get Darren Sproles like seventh, eighth round, near the
Oh,
10th. Like
and they'd be
you
like, why
completely
you going to get
overlooked.
Darren Sproles? Because Darren
Look,
Sproles, I'm trying to tell you.
look. In today's game of zero running back, Darren Sproles would be a league winner.
Oh
In
gosh,
today's,
easy. And it wouldn't be. The
yeah,
thing is, it wouldn't be fair, like because people didn't know when to go get Darren Sproles.
right,
Darren Sproles would last to about, like you say, round 7, round 8, and you'll be able to get Darren Sproles, and you probably got your other running backs already,
yeah,
and he would be better than the running backs that you got.
hmm,
That's how good he was, and people just don't understand, man. Darren Sproles was the man, bro. Like he was crazy with it. He was, I'm not gonna say LaDainian Thomas like, but he just,
yeah.
if you had to compare the two, LaDainian is always better.
Yeah.
But Darren Sproles was that, he was
The,
almost
the
close.
the only knock on Darren Sproles was he was small. He was
He
an
was small.
undersized running back, and
Yep.
that's why you could get him so late. But he produced. So
Man, they did not understand, man. So I was telling you, that's one. Um, and then I got one. Aaron Foster,
yeah,
he didn't do it for a long
he
time.
and that's where he was lacking. He didn't have the longevity
He ain't
that
had a
a lot of
longevity,
guys on the
but
Eagles had.
Aaron Foster was undrafted. And he came out of nowhere and just became that guy in Houston, bro. And for like a year, he was
He
crazy.
had a good 2.5 years, I think,
Was
maybe
it?
three.
I mean,
Because the first year was just a surprise. The second year, people were looking for him, and he produced. But then he started getting hurt,
hurt. He got a
and
bunch of
then it was
injuries and
over.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, Darren Sproles definitely. If you could grab Darren Sproles plus these other running backs, bro, you was doing something now because a lot these kids don't know nothing about back then, man. Like trying to tell you. So Percy Harvin was good for like a stretch.
yeah. He had a similar thing because he had the migraines, that would have him out of games. But he's the guy that in those little stretches he would put up those kind of the numbers. So you could also get him really late.
You remember Jacoby
Release.
Jones?
Of course, I remember Jacoby
Oh my
Jones.
gosh, bro. It's so funny. I was talking to Keith
Yeah,
and we were saying he was like, I was like, yo, this return rule, man, it's gonna bring people don't understand, yo. This return rule is gonna change a lot of stuff when it comes to fantasy this year because
yeah,
they want returns and they want guys back there returning the ball. I say Jacoby Jones was perfect for that.
yeah.
He was like,
Rest
man,
in peace.
rest in peace. He was
But
like,
yeah, he was.
who is Jacoby Jones? I was like, yo, you ain't got to be kidding me, right? I say I picked up Jones on fire, and he was key touch against his project every 22 game, and people would ask, "What you found on the wire through?" And he returned, he was number receiver, the penalty is so playing. You gotta kind of search for those guys nowadays. It's crazy, and it's gonna be even more running backs and
Yeah.
receivers out there that you're gonna be able to get. That's in the return game. So something to think about. To be honest with you. So
Yep. Yep.
you want to jump into this?
Hey, it's about that time we can get it jumping and talk about our topic again for this week is players overvalued, undervalued guys. We like I said, we've done mock drafts for the past couple of weeks. So you got to see who we think of as some of the top, but some guys that maybe aren't getting drafted in the league. Looking at ADP, we have to remember that is that maybe should be going higher, and some guys that maybe are going higher than we think they should. So let's get started with it. You want to take the first one?
Yeah.
Who
Um,
you got?
I like this guy. I like this guy. But I think he's going way too high for my liking, and that's Anthony Richardson.
Oh, see, we got to stop always thinking the same.
Wait, man.
Yeah,
Didn't talk about
yeah,
this.
we haven't had a chance to talk about this
We
at
didn't
all,
talk about this
but
at all. So
but
it's
Anthony
just,
Richardson is on my list. Yes, go talk about him.
I just feel like, and I'm not saying Anthony Richardson is a bad quarterback. What I'm saying is Anthony Richardson is good for certain leagues.
Yeah,
So if you're in a league where quarterbacks get a lot of points for running, or they or rushing attempts or yards or touchdowns, any of that nature, Anthony Richardson is perfect for that league. But if you're telling me a straight passing league where we talking about
hmm
completions and throwing for 250, 300 yards where you get a bonus or anything like that, I wouldn't say he is a top 10 quarterback in that realm at
yeah,
all. Because if you look at what he did last year before the getting hurt games and not being there, I think he never threw for like
yeah,
250. He did have like 4 or 5 touchdowns, but that's a great part of his game is that he can run because he's big. He
yeah,
reminds you of a Cam Newton type quarterback.
yeah.
Um,
He's the prototypical athletic guy. Like he checks a lot of the boxes that Cam did. He's really
yeah.
athletic, really big size kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And how did things end for Cam?
In,
Injuries.
injuries, yeah.
And there's a lot of Cam Newton and Anthony
A
Richardson.
lot, a lot, and it's you got some of the good, you got some of the bad, but it's like I hope he reframes his game to where he becomes a passer more than a runner, and
Hmm.
I think whoever's coaching him, they should try to push that towards him to say, hey, stand in the pocket. Now, obviously, use your legs if you have to, because goal line purposes, even from a first down, like if you need 1 yard type thing. Now, yes, once you get down in the 20, then we maybe can have a conversation on okay, do you want to run or do you want to pass? But like when you get before that, you got to use your arms, man. You got to like
Uh,
throw the football, and I think for him to stay healthy because he got hurt running the football a lot.
yeah.
So I think for him to stay healthy, he needs to work on throwing, not throwing, but like
Well,
just being a better passer.
he didn't have the passing, but he didn't play. He played 4 games, and
I know.
that's the main reason I have him in this overrated. He's going at looking at as high as like the fifth quarterback off the board.
Yeah.
Which if you're in a more standard league, the rushing is what people love. That's why Lamar Jackson was always high on people's lists. That's why Josh Allen is high on people's lists. That's why Anthony Richardson is getting drafted. Even last year, Justin Fields, who is no longer on the team he had all the hype for, he got a lot of hype last year. And
Mm-hmm.
you heard me, and I think you as well, talked about he was kind of overrated last year because people were looking at the rushing numbers. And
Yeah.
the rushing is good, and it will win you leagues. People love it,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be fool's gold when that's really the only thing you're looking at. You got to have a well-rounded quarterback to win games. And I know in
Yes.
fantasy football we don't really care about wins or losses, but that you got to have a little bit of that in your mentality because hey, one, like I said, the guy can get hurt. Two,
Yeah.
if people know that's your thing, that's what they're gonna focus on, and so it gets harder to get all those rushing yards. And I don't think Anthony Richardson's gonna get it for you this year. If that's the main draw, you know you have to produce it. And I don't really see him producing the numbers rushing like people want, and you already know he's probably not going to give you the passing yards. That's why I kind of like a guy like a Josh Allen when I know he can do them both.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like guys that, hey, even if you can't give me rushing yards, I know I can depend on your. Hey, Dak Prescott's not going to lead the league in rushing, but I know he's going to throw for 4,000 yards because he always
Of
does.
course.
And he's going to always throw for like 30, 25, 30 touchdowns because he always does. And the main rule I have for fantasy football, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, consistency when we're talking about consistent players versus potential players, and we both are on the side of take consistency over potential.
Potential.
There's a spot for
Yep.
potential on your fantasy football roster, but not at my top quarterback position.
Oh no, you
I
can't.
need
No.
reliable production, and Anthony
Mm-hmm.
Richardson is not reliable production. So we share, not surprisingly, not the first one we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I go with my first one, and I'll stay with the overrated. But I don't know if I really have this guy as overrated. But in the news this week, it was discussion about Josh Allen on
Yes.
where he should be. In fact, the GM for the Bills says, and I quote, "There's a lot of idiots out there," because people are putting Josh Allen as overrated. Um, and I get it because they lost a lot in this offense, because Stephon Diggs is no longer there. That
Yeah.
they have they're kind of rebuilding that offense
Makes sense.
with Keon Coleman, the rookie they drafted, with Curtis Samuel is there, and I forget the other guy who's
Shakur. Shakir.
Shakir.
Mm-hmm.
The cupboards look kind of bearish.
Yes.
So I put Josh Allen as my overrated player only because I wanted to see what you thought about it. Is it debatable? I don't think he's like the number one quarterback in a lot of people's minds. He's probably not that this year. So I get overrated for him in as much as if you think he's going to be the one, maybe not. But
I don't.
overall, I kind of like Josh Allen. What
I
do you
don't
think?
really think he's overrated. I
Yeah.
think he's going to be asked to do a lot.
Uh huh.
Um, and when you think about, yes, the receiving core is not that great. Let's just keep it 100. It's not great,
It's not good.
but it's
I
not
wouldn't
good.
even say it's good.
But the I think the weapons he going to be throwing to the most is probably the tight
The tight
ends.
end. I agree.
The tight ends and James Cook are probably going to benefit a lot from not having a receiver, because one of those guys outside of the tight ends and James Cook are going to have to step up and
Right.
be that reliable receiver. Maybe one or two, honestly, going to have to. So I don't really think that at the end of the day it's going to be. I just don't see him being overrated, because you know how the kids say now he's him. He has to prove that he's
Mm-hmm.
him, because I feel like I say this, most quarterbacks, receiver and receivers quarterbacks. I feel like John can make a receiver look good. Now, is he number one?
That's the question. I think.
Yes, I don't think he's number one, but I'm down
Uh,
to,
yeah.
I would say my number person one is CJ person. You can say navigation between about homes. Number one, what we did, DJ. You could but saying then yes, you can
Yeah.
say overrated, but like he's still a top three, top four quarterback, because he's gonna have to run. He runs the ball regardless. He's gonna have
Yeah.
to run. He's gonna throw the ball. He gonna It's just gonna force him to spread the ball around a little bit more. That's what really it comes down to. So I can agree but disagree that
Yeah.
yes, he's not number one, but he really is that number three. Probably at 3 or 4 behind like a Barrow, somewhere around there. But Barrow's a question mark too, but still.
Yeah, I don't have Barrow. Barrow's like the number seven quarterback ADP.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't even think I have him that high. I think I have Joe Barrow in my top. He's definitely in my top 10, but he's seven might be right, but somewhere
Yeah.
between like 7 to 10 maybe.
But you got people that's gonna say, well, I'll take a Barrow over a Josh Allen because Barrow got Chase,
Yeah.
Barrow got Higgins, he got better weapons. And that's a valid argument, but
Yeah.
I feel like if you're looking from I like to use uh, Kirk Cousins in Washington as an example to a lot of people. Kirk
Yeah.
Cousins in Washington, they were losing games every week. They were down 15. They were down by 20, 21 points every week. Kirk Cousins was throwing for 4,000, 4,200
Mm-hmm.
yards in Washington, 30 touchdowns, and they were losing. And it's like he was winning fantasy, but you don't care about win or losing because that's not your team. But from a fantasy standpoint, Kirk Cousins was winning games
He's
for people
productive.
because they had to throw the ball 35, 40 times to stay in the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the case with Josh Allen. They're going to have to throw the ball for them to stay in the game. So he going to throw, he going to run, and it's like he going to get a lot of points just based off of just doing everything to keep the team in the game. And I think that's a big part of it, to be honest with you. So, yes, he may not be number one, but he
Yeah.
could be number three. So,
Cool. All right. It's on you.
I'm
Who
gonna
you
stay
got?
with quarterbacks, and I'm looking at a list now, right?
Okay.
And this quarterback is ranked above Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers,
Hmm.
um, and I would just leave it at that. Now, I wouldn't take him over either of those guys.
Okay.
His name is Caleb Williams.
I
So,
was
Caleb
wondering
Williams,
how long it's going to take you to bring out the Caleb Williams hatred.
it's not hatred. It's just real honest. It's no way.
uh,
I don't care in what league. Dynasty, well, dynasty is different because you have to draft young
yeah.
quarterbacks. But redraft, and I mean in any redraft league, any type of redraft league, there's no way you're drafting. I don't care what Herbert. And I was talking to Keith earlier about this. Herbert in 2022 had 47-39. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. How
Mm,
many games you think Keenan Allen played that year?
mm. It wasn't a lot. I'm trying to remember. I'm going to
Okay,
say 7.
10.
10. Dang it. I almost guessed 10. Yeah.
He played 10 games,
Yeah.
and how many games you think Mike Williams
Oh,
missed?
he 2. I don't know. Mike Evans doesn't. I mean, Mike Williams doesn't play.
He missed
I'm
four
a
games.
4 game.
4 games. So they missed a total of they played a total of 14 games together. Well, not even
Yeah.
together, because a lot of them were. I
Yes.
think that year they played about 6 games together that year. Not one player on that Chargers team had over 1,000 yards receiving. He spread the ball to 6 different people who had over 500 receiving yards. So now the thing is, well, he doesn't have those guys. He doesn't have Mike Williams. He doesn't have Keenan Allen. He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have. Okay, he still got to throw the football. He's going to be in situations where they have to throw the football. Now, the receivers do have to catch.
Yeah.
But I tell you this, for a guy that didn't have a receiver over 1,000 yards, he was 47-39. To me, that is insane. So I
Yeah.
would not take a Caleb Williams, who I haven't seen technically play
Mm.
in the pros,
No.
over Justin Herbert, over Kirk Cousins, over Matthew Stafford, even over a broke down Aaron Rodgers. And you know how I feel about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh yeah.
So I just think he's a little people are gravitating to him too much. I heard somebody say top 10, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
That's kind of
like,
wild.
where are we talking about here? Like, I'm talking like lists where he's 10, 12, 15, and I'm like, there's no way you can't sit here and tell me you won't take this quarterback over him, and he hasn't shown anything personally.
I take. I'm looking at the ADP. He's about 15, 16 in a lot of lists. You're getting close to where I think his value is, but I'm with you. I take a few players before him because like a player like Kirk Cousins is rated under him. I take Kirk Cousins over Caleb Williams in a heartbeat. Uh,
Yes,
I take
any day of
I
the
take
week.
Matthew Stafford. I even probably take Trevor Lawrence. As disappointing as Trevor Lawrence was last year, I
Yeah.
take all those guys over Kate. And we talked about the draft coming up. Our dynasty draft is coming up, and I'm already advertising Caleb Williams as my number one pick.
See,
That's
but
where he belongs in dynasty. In
that
redraft,
dynasty.
that goes back to our potential versus consistency discussion. you drafted Caleb Williams on potential, and
Hmm.
hey, the Bears have a history of consistently not doing well at quarterback. So I'm with you. I don't draft him as high as his ADP probably is.
Yeah, me either.
I'm still calling you a Caleb Williams hater just because it's funny.
Okay, you can say that. I'm fine with that. I'm good with that.
All right, I'm gonna stay with overrated, and I'm gonna actually stay with the last name Williams, but I'm gonna leave the quarterback. I want to get this one out before you can get to it because we have
I,
very similar feelings on
I already know where you're going.
Karen Williams. He is the number 8 running back off the board right now in a lot
Yeah.
of people's lists. And looking at what he did last year, I 100% get it. But I just sounding the alarm so you can say I told you first. Uh, he ain't doing it this year.
You,
Uh,
you
just
stole my
for
pick, bro.
I know I had another player I was gonna say before him, but I was like, if I don't say this, you stole the first overall overrated player. So I said I'm gonna say this one now before he has a chance to get to it. Um, hey, they drafted a running back in Los Angeles,
Yep.
and Blake Corum is going to get some play. I think Kyron Wentz is still a good pick in fantasy football. I don't think he's a top 10 running back this season, and I think I told y'all before. As soon as last season ended, he was like my number 2 or 3 running back on the board in our way too early picks.
Yeah.
Once I saw the draft, I was like, nope, skip that. and I tell everybody the same thing. Um, he's right now going. I'm looking like second round probably in
Hmm.
most middle of the second round. In some people's, I meant to look where he went in our draft. I forgot when we did last week. He was the first or second round. I think it was
Second
second
round.
round.
I think it was second round.
I think it was second round in
Yeah.
that one. You're not getting a really bad player in the second round there, but there's other players underneath him I'd rather have. And I think we both mentioned this guy, Derrick Henry. I'd take over
In a
Williams
heartbeat.
in
Lord have
a
mercy.
heartbeat. I'd
Heartbeat.
take Rashad White, who's
Oh my
getting
gosh.
drafted like 2 to 3 rounds later in most drafts. I think he has the potential to have a disappointing season, but
Yes.
I think he's gonna be just as likely to be successful as Williams is gonna be at the running back spot. So I pumped the brakes on making him my first runner because right now he's being drafted as somebody's first running back off the board. For me,
Not
that is
even.
not a player I want as my first runner. As my second running back, I love it. First running back, I think you're making a mistake.
Now, I would say this. It ain't even about the fact that they drafted a running back.
Okay.
It's about the fact that if you go back and you look at the Rams' history
Mm-hmm.
of running backs since you can go back 5 years, honestly, they haven't had
Yeah.
probably about more like 4 years. You haven't had a running back, a consistent one running back the
Mm-hmm.
next season be their
Yeah.
top
Year to
running
year.
back.
Mm-hmm.
It's year to year for them, and that's the problem with me with them. It's like we know he's good.
He's very
You didn't
good.
need. He's very good. You didn't need to draft another running back. I think that was a wasted pick, but you did. So now it shows you want to not a running back committee, but you don't want to put too
It's,
much on him.
it's
So you
gonna be
go
a pretty decent sized timeshare, and
yes,
I'm good with timeshares because everybody in football does it. I don't want it,
yes,
like I said, as my number one running back option. My number one has to be a stud. I'm
and
talking about again Derrick Henry.
that's why I'm like
Yeah,
I agree with you. I don't think he. I wouldn't draft him late. I wouldn't draft him early, but
right.
if he's there for you,
If he falls to the third round, I'm jumping on it quickly.
yeah, but not the first 2 rounds because
Yeah,
I feel like you can get better value in the first 2 rounds
yeah,
in
agreed.
a draft like that. So
I go with another stud wide receiver
over him,
before I draft Kyron Williams as my first running back. That's
yeah, of course,
yeah.
that's what I would do. So I'm with
All
it.
right, back to you.
I got one more that I think is overrated, and I might get some blowback on this one, but it's
Don't
cool.
make it mine, but go ahead.
Devon A. Chain.
You son of a gun.
I'm just saying, man. Like we thinking, like
ah.
We think alike, man. I'm just
We
saying,
do.
man.
We do.
What you want me to do, man? Sydney, tell him, Sydney. We've been drafting together for years. We know we gonna pick it.
Yeah,
Like
y'all don't know why y'all have separate lists. Y'all just need to go 1, 2, 3 and say the name.
Y'all gonna think we lying when I tell you we did not talk. We didn't talk
we
about
didn't
this
talk
at
about
all.
this.
We talked about all the NFL news we did, but we didn't discuss the overrated underrated list at all.
Next
I thought I
time,
was jumping you with Kyron Williams. I said, oh, he's not gonna mention A Chain. I could get that one in later.
nope. Next
Nope.
time, just go 1, 2, 3 and see if y'all say the same name.
No,
Trust me, that would work because then
Yeah.
that would be interesting to see if y'all say the same.
That would
thing.
actually be interesting.
I mean, like you gotta expect
Because
this. Like, I mean, come on, man. We draft together 10+ years, man. Come on, man. He's like, we know where each other be thinking. So again, that's how the show started.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying.
Yes, it did.
It did. Exactly.
Did. I
So-
can witness to that. It did.
So-
all
How
right,
it started.
give us
So,
your logic, and it's gonna be the same
Um,
as my logic. But go ahead.
They drafted a running back. That's
Yep.
one. Two, they gave Raheem Mostert a 2-year contract. That's two. And Raheem Mostert had 21 touchdowns last year, 18 rushing, 3 on the ground. 3 in the air, and that's not going to change. So it's like, yes, A-Chain did work last year.
He
Don't
did.
get me wrong.
Serious work
But
last year.
a lot of people are drafting him as their number one running back off the board. Going into the season, this is my number one guy. When you know you're gonna have, because A-Chain has some
Just
awesome
for context,
things.
he's the number 9 running back. He's coming off right after Karen Williams, who we just finished talking about. You're also gonna have to pay a second round fee to get him
For
on
him.
your squad. Go ahead.
Yes, for him to be I feel like he's in a timeshare 3 times over because you
He
drafted
is.
a running back with Raheem and then it's him. So it's
Yeah,
like
that's a bigger timeshare than in Los Angeles. Yes, you're right.
I don't care about the carries, Keith. Like that doesn't matter to me. What I'm saying is 103 carries is not a lot, bro. So you can say it's a lot, but it's not a lot.
It's a lot. I give you a lot. Welcome,
Yeah.
Keith. Glad to have you. But you already made my point for me. He had those 103 points. 103 carries in 11 games. And that's the thing that people are excited about. He only played 11 games, and he was one of the best running backs in the business. There's a thing called regression. The numbers he put up in those few games, what is it, 800 rushing yards? He had, how many touchdowns did he have? 8, I think.
8? I think yeah, 8. Yeah.
He had a lot going on, and only in a very small sample size. That's not natural. That's not sustainable. You're gonna look for regression from H.A. And so the big numbers he put up per game is gonna fall back down to a more reasonable level because of the reasons that you mentioned before. And that's why I can't take him as my number one running back. I love him. Hey, we in the draft, I picked him up, but
Yeah.
I in the mock draft, that is, I picked him up. But in
Do
reality,
you see him get 200 carries? I don't see 200 carries.
I don't not in that time share.
Not in that time share.
Because they're gonna want to. Passing is still what they do the most of.
Yes.
And I just think that they have 3 very capable running backs, and I think all 3 of them get some work. How many?
And the thing is, we didn't even talk about it's another running back that got 41 carries last year. Something Junior. I forgot he played for us. Wilson Jr.
Yeah.
Wilson Jr. got 41 carries last year. So you still incorporate him in that offense where he may play a little bit. So it's like you got 4 running backs there. That's a crowded backfield.
Crowded room.
And you can't sit here and tell
me. There's a lot of talent on that team. Jalen Waddle just got paid. Tyreek Hill's, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
They bought in Odell. I'm not really that concerned about Odell.
Nah, me neither.
but it still represents another mouth to feed in that offense, and I don't see him getting. I don't see him getting 200 carries.
Maybe 150.
I'm trying to think.
Maybe 150.
I can see. I'm looking at some of the 200 carry guys. A guy like Jerome Ford got that, but that was because
of injury.
Nick Chubb got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt. Yeah.
he can get around 200. I don't think 200's a like super way high number, but I think you're gonna be expecting a lot for those carries that you're probably not going to see him get because, like you said, they gave most of the money for a reason, and he's probably still the number one running back in that offense.
See, but my question is
Well, at
this.
least one A, one B.
My question is this though: who is the running back at the goal line?
It
That
ain't.
see, but that's the question because that's Raheem Mustard. Raheem
You're
Mustard was the running
100%
back
right
at the
there.
goal line. So it's like, okay, you losing carries at the goal line to Raheem Mustard. And Raheem Mustard was getting maybe 11, 12, maybe 15 at most carries last year. And he was doing the same thing
Yeah,
that A-Chain was doing. So it's like, okay, which, like, you could get Raheem Mustard so late in the draft. It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
and I
Like, you're going to,
would, and I would
that's
try
what
to
I'm
get
saying.
him late.
You're going to pay a premium for A-Chain because A-Chain, yes, with those 103 carries, I
Yeah,
give you that. But still, like, do you really want to waste a first round, second round pick on a guy that you know is going to be sharing the load with two other running backs?
not I.
I can't do it. Sorry.
I'm,
Not me.
I'm still mad at you for taking my pick, but
I mean, we think alike. Man.
it's
Come
all
on.
love though, because like I said, we. So since you did that one, I'm gonna go to the underrated side right now, and let me say this one because I get an inkling you might say this name too, Deontay Johnson. I've been a big Deontay Johnson fan for many years. He disappointed a lot of fantasy players last year. I think he only
Yeah.
had like 700 receiving yards. Last year though, Adam Thielen put up 1,000 yards in that offense.
100
Uh,
receptions.
what did Adam Thielen do the year before that? About 700 yards. I
Yeah.
think Deontay Johnson comes in as the new. I mean, Adam Thielen's still there, and I think he's someone he's going to have to contend with. But I think those two finally give Bryce Young a set of talented wide receivers. Both
Mm-hmm.
of those guys are dependable. I think Deontay Johnson takes over as the number one guy in that offense. I would be shocked if he isn't 900, 1,100 yards going in this year, which is going to be a big pickup. He's getting drafted as like the 38th wide receiver overall. He finished, I think, like in that's the, around 80th wide receiver last year, so I know why a lot of people aren't going for him because that about 80 overall is where they drafted him now. But don't judge Deontay Johnson off what you saw Kenny Pickett and that offense do last year. He's a much better wide receiver than you
That is
showed.
true. Woo.
And the kind of jump that Adam Thielen did his first year in Carolina, I expect Deontay Johnson to do the same thing this year. So I'm grabbing Deontay late in my drafts, and I'm expecting him to put up wide receiver 2 numbers for my team.
I ain't mad at that. I agree with you a lot. I wasn't going to really say him, so you got me on that one.
All right, good.
Uh, but I agree with you. I think Deontay Johnson, anybody that played with Kenny Pickett last year, is going to look
It's
bad.
gonna look really
I
bad.
mean, go look at George Pickett's numbers and like the amount of targets and the receptions he had and what he did with it. In a lot of those games, Kenny Pickett was terrible. Like he was just like outright bad. He had
They
a
were
game
they
where he
were
had
awful.
70 yards or something like that. They had a game where they had 100 yards. So it was like Kenny Pickett wasn't the greatest quarterback. So
Not even a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Deontay Johnson, he looked bad in a bad situation. So I definitely agree with you. He's going low. But I'm gonna get this one. I'm gonna go to another one. I hope you don't take him. Well, I'm gonna say it anyway.
You're gonna say it before I can. But who you got?
Yep. I'm gonna say I'm looking at this list and they got Nico Collins
Oh,
way too low.
I wasn't gonna say him, so I'm all right with that.
Um, Nico Collins is right now. I'm looking at a list at 17,
Mm-hmm.
and you got the likes of a Drake London who could possibly be good with a Kirk Cousins, Lave,
Yeah.
um, even. I'm sorry, but I don't know. On this rookie thing. I like Marvin Harrison Jr. Don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to see it first for
That's
me.
reasonable.
And I get you going saying, you know what, give me Marvin Harris over Nico Collins. I can't do that because I know what Nico Collins can do. I've seen it with my own two eyes. So it's like, uh, I would take a Nico over Marvin Harrison Jr. right now. And that's no slight to Marvin Harrison Jr. It's more of a I don't trust out of the gate rookies like that. Like, especially
Yeah.
he's gonna be the number one, but give me Nico Collins, who I know got a better rapport with CJ Stroud.
I think a lot of the problem with Nico is people seeing Stephon Diggs come into that offense
I don't think that
and
changes nothing.
and thinking he's gonna come back a little bit from where he was last year. I'm with you. I think Nico is still the number one wide
Yeah.
receiver in that offense, and I think they're gonna. There's no reason to think C.J. Stroud's not gonna have a season similar to what he did last year. So I'm big on that. I'm trying to think would I take Marvin Harrison Jr. over Nico as they as the rankings have them. It'd be. I'm kind of excited. I said there's a place for potential in your drafting. I don't like where Marvin Harrison. I didn't put him in my overrated group, but I don't. Marvin Harrison is the 10th wide receiver off the board right now. I'm looking. Nico Collins is like the 13th wide receiver.
That's too high, man.
I have trepidation. I do have trepidation about taking Marvin Harrison that early. I think he can definitely live up to it because Kyler Murray's gonna have to throw to somebody, and it's really him and their tight end. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'm gonna give you this one. I'm gonna say Nico Collins over Marvin Harrison Jr.
I just think, I mean,
It's a tough one for me because like I said, I am excited about that position, but I can almost guarantee you on my drafting, I probably won't end up with Marvin Harrison on a single team because
I
of
mean,
how
but because
high
think
he's
about it,
drafted. Right.
if this the case, if they saying okay, Marvin Harrison going this high, you have to give up so much to go up to get him when it's unknown.
Yeah.
It's an unknown commodity. Like you don't know what you're getting from him. Not saying he's not going to do well. It's like, but you've seen a finished product in Nico Collins. You know what Nico Collins can do. So for me, it's like maybe you swap the two. Nico
Mm-hmm.
at 10 and Marvin Harrison at 13. And I mean, you might still have an argument there. Does he belong at 13? But my thing is, I feel like Nico, he's still going to be the number one. I think Diggs, all Diggs is going to do is just make it better for him
Right.
because you got to respect Diggs as a number two.
I mean,
So,
Tank Dell was very serviceable
as a number
until he
two.
got hurt, and I
Yeah.
think Stephon Diggs is. I don't think it's a stretch to say it's an upgrade as to number
Oh,
two. So
oh,
you're gonna definitely
definitely.
have to respect. I think they gonna have a threesome. I don't think I want to use the word threesome.
No,
Trio.
no.
They're gonna have a
Trio.
trio
Trio.
of wide
Yeah.
receivers. That's gonna be as good as any other one you can find in the league with those
I mean, I
guys.
just I
I think
just
they
feel
can
like I
compete.
still you're gonna get even with I think like Diggs probably still would get about
Yeah.
if you say target shares maybe 100, 115, something like that. And he may catch about 80, 85 passes. I still think Nico is going to get you your 100 because they pass the ball so much
Yeah.
in
Which
Houston.
surprised me. I didn't
Yes.
see them passing that much with a rookie quarterback, and you know they're going to do it more. I would think they're going to do it
Yeah.
even more
I
this
mean,
year.
they throw the ball so much.
They're trying to compete with the Chiefs for the AFC
Yeah.
title, and I think they've got a shot at it.
So that's my one that's underrated.
All right. I'm gonna stay with underrated, and I'm gonna mention the guy that we talked about earlier in the show. That's Dak Prescott. Right now,
Not old Dak now.
Dak Prescott is the ninth quarterback off the board, uh, which means you're getting Dak Prescott at quite a distance considering he led the league in touchdowns last year. He had 36 touchdowns passing, and he was top three in yards. As long as they we said that the problem with them is they haven't paid anybody to keep
Yeah.
that offense, and I think maybe that's kind of why Dak Prescott is as low. But people don't like Dak. You'll remember a couple of years ago we had Dak in our top tier of quarterbacks, and we got eaten up on social media
Oh yeah.
when people said, "How can you hire Dak Prescott that high? Dak Prescott loses games. Dak Prescott can't win when it matters.
I
Look at
remember
his
that
record in the
too.
playoffs." I'm like, playoffs have absolutely nothing to do
Nothing
with
to do
fantasy
with this.
football. I,
Exactly.
who cares? Look, I'm rooting for the Cowboys to lose every game, but doggone it, Dak Prescott and combining with CeeDee Lamb, that offense, he is going to put up numbers. Like I said, he could realistically be the number one overall quarterback in fantasy football this year, and I
Yeah.
would not be the least bit surprised about it. And if you're getting him as the ninth quarterback off the board, I take that in a heartbeat. And I'm gonna kind of combine him with another player. I hope I'm not overstepping and
Oh, you
jumping
good?
on toes. I said that he was the number one quarterback for touchdowns, and the guy that's number two is Jordan Love, and neither one of those guys are anywhere near the top five in fantasy football. And I think people are making a huge mistake uh, uh, going for the running potential of some of these other guys over guys who are going to put up numbers. And Dak Prescott is, for me, that dude. You'll notice if you go look at the mock drafts, I drafted Dak Prescott in both of them because I probably won't get him in any of my redraft teams just because, but I'm big on Dak Prescott. So there you
So
go.
let me ask you this: Dak Prescott or Jordan Love? I mean, I'm sorry, Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts?
It's gonna be hard for me to not go Jalen. I love me some Jalen. He's my quarterback in my dynasty team, and we talked about the rushing. He will give you the rushing aspect. I don't think he gives you the rushing touchdowns like he did last year because
Yeah.
I don't. We've got to see the touch push without Jason Kelsey there.
Yeah.
Uh, I take Jalen Hurts over Jordan Love by the narrowest of margins, just because I'm a big Jalen dude.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I give you that. I ain't
Uh,
mad at that.
Keith is asking if CD Lamb sits out, do I still want Dak? And that's a great question. And I think, again, that's the reason why I think you get in Dak so low is people don't know what's happening with that situation. If CD's out of it, then I am completely out of it as well. I need CD Lamb to make that Dak Prescott thing work
Yeah.
because
I
I
I
don't
think they
see it
will.
working. I'm a big no. I go from big Dak Prescott guy to automatic no if CD Lamb's not there, or if Dak Prescott gets traded to some other team, I'm also probably not as big on it, depending on what that other team is. So yeah, CD Lamb is a big part of why I'm big on Dak Prescott. Yes,
I,
good
I mean, I
question.
like I like Dak, and I think Dak. I don't care about the playoffs because I mean that don't bother me too much.
Yeah,
Dak has done well in these last couple seasons. He's really done well, and it's okay. I'll take a Dak over a lot of quarterbacks. Just like I'm a big Jordan Love fan. I like Jordan Love. I
I
think
love
Jordan
Jordan
Love,
Love.
if he with the weapons he got and these guys, and we don't outside of like if you're a Green Bay fan, you know the receivers. But like if you just a football fan, you probably can name only one of them, maybe one or two, and that's Kristen Washington and Reed. That's
Hmm.
about it. Everybody else is like, okay, I didn't know who this guy was. So Jordan Love makes a lot of
Look,
those.
you might say Romeo Dobbs if you're sitting over in the producer's corner because that he's on one of her dynasty teams.
Yeah, but like
Yeah,
I don't.
but
You don't
outside
think
of those three, honestly, I couldn't tell you a single
can't
person
you
on them.
can't tell.
Couldn't
But
tell
the
you.
thing is, do you? I don't know. I just feel like Jordan Love is he's gonna do really good, and a lot of people are gonna regret not. Not I ain't saying draft him top five. I ain't even saying draft him top eight. I'm just saying like you if he's not in that 10 somewhere at the bottom, at least 8, 9, 10, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice personally.
Are
So
you using Jordan Love as your underrated, by the way, or you just mentioned it because
under
I threw his name out there?
no, just I mean I'm just mentioning because you said something.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, he still deserves to be talked about. Jordan Love is probably underrated too, but
Oh yeah, of course, definitely. A
but look
lot
at
of
you.
people don't think. A lot of people don't think so, but
Yeah.
we gonna that's remains to be seen. So we'll see.
All right. Then it is your turn still. Who you got?
Uh, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna go with a sleeper. If
Okay.
with a sleeper in this,
Sleepers are by definition underrated, so go for it.
so yeah. So they got my guy. Who I like,
Oh,
George Pickens
uh
at
huh.
30, and
I thought you were gonna actually say him sooner. Yeah,
they
go
got
ahead.
him at 30. The list I'm looking at, and
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you right now, I'm taking him over a bunch of these receivers that's in front of him. Um, whew, he gets a bad rap just like because of the Kenny Pickett situation.
Yeah,
Um, Kenny Pickett made that situation bad, so those receivers didn't look good. And for what he did with the limited catches and targets that he got, he did work. He did 1,000.
yeah,
And I think he's going to have a better year this year. More stable quarterbacks, honestly. Um, because if DJ Moore can get 1,300 yards with Justin Fields, so can
right.
George Pickens. So I think George Pickens is rated too low, and I'm glad he is.
Are you sold that it's gonna be Justin Fields as the quarterback or
No,
Russell Wilson?
I think both are playing.
Okay,
I think it's going to be Russell Wilson early, and then if Russell Wilson decide not to play well, that's what Justin
okay.
Fields is there for. So it all in my heart of hearts, I really think they want Justin Fields to
To
succeed
take that,
because
yeah,
they need a quarterback for the future. And if they can get him to be right, then I think they will be more happy with him over a Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson's over. He's older than the Fields, obviously. So
right.
you will want a Justin Fields to succeed more than a Russell Wilson would. So I would, if I had to go out on a limb, I would say by week 8, maybe week 7, if the ship ain't going right in Pittsburgh, and Russ just not looking like Russ, then you will start hear the rumblings of a Justin Fields at
Right.
that point. Because you know how the coach is. He will stick with a player long as he can before he start to pull him out the game. So that that alone for me is okay. But I really think George Pickens is going to be good this year, man. They have no second receiver
I was
for
gonna say
real
he's
life.
the number one guy, right?
Yeah,
So, uh, and you would be hard pressed to not say Justin Fields Russell Wilson combination is better than Kenny Pickett was, right? So
I,
it's a up
hands
right?
down better.
It's an upgrade,
Gosh,
and as much as I'm not 100% sold on Arthur Smith because of how terrible he was with the Falcons as the head coach, I think it's an upgrade at offensive coordinator. I think
yes,
it's an upgrade at quarterback. And given the fact, like you said, that George Pickens is now the number one unquestioned guy, yeah, this what's not to love.
you got. I mean, you gotta and the value that you're getting them.
Yeah,
I feel like you're getting the number one receiver
yeah. He, like you
at
said,
that
he's
value.
around 30 wide receiver, 55 overall. So
Yeah,
you're putting a fifth, sixth round pick out there to grab him. I'm not
yeah.
mad at that.
I mean, because Malik Neighbors, really?
If I get 1,000 yards from probably my second, third wide
Receiver?
receiver, I'm eating
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm
I
eating
mean,
that
think
any
about
day.
it. Like you got Zay Flowers, Malik Neighbors. You got a bunch of guys in front of him that
Yeah,
I would take in a heartbeat. You know, I just don't know. I mean, for me, like a Debo or Keenan Allen, because I feel like the whole situation in Chicago with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, one of those receivers are not going to do well
yeah,
because you have all of those receivers. Even when you include the rookie receiver, it's a lot of receivers to throw to and to get involved. And we know Chicago still like running the football is based on running and defense. So I don't know, I don't see how you would put Keenan ahead of him when
hmm
Keenan really is a 1B, like a 1A, 1B type receiver this year because of DJ Moore.
yeah,
Because you had to pick DJ Moore as probably the better receiver at this point of their career
Yeah.
over Keenan Allen. So I don't know. I would have
He,
George Pickens a little bit higher in the pecking order than they got him here. So
that matter.
that's just me, especially over Debo, who can't catch a cold sometimes. But yeah, that's
you,
just me, and I know Debo.
look, you about to get kicked out of the 49ers crew. You said quite a few negative comments about your
Oh
team
man,
this.
I don't care about that. You know that. Come on, I spend my money and go to their games. They better like me.
You better love me no matter what, right?
Exactly. So no.
Let me hit my underrated. And this one, I'm willing to be told I'm crazy on. He went in the not last, I think like the eighth or ninth round in our mock drafts. Tony Pollard.
Woo.
Um,
Hold up. Wait a minute now.
you might surprise a lot of people when you say Tony Pollard was 1,000 yard rusher last year. Uh,
Yeah, in the last game of the year.
hey, doesn't matter. The point is,
Jeez.
he made it 1,000 last year in what I think universally everybody says was a very disappointing, terrible year for him. But going to Tennessee, I think he has a chance. It's going to be a 1-2 punch for him and Tajay
Mm.
Spears. I think they're both going to be really interesting to look at. But let's just put all the cards on the table. Will Levis is not a great quarterback. At least we haven't
Yeah.
seen it yet. Potential, sure, but that run game is going to have to support this team. And we saw Derrick Henry be 1,000 yard rusher with this offense a year ago. Like I said, Tony Pollard was 1,000 yard rusher last year. In the year where everybody was disappointed with what he gave you for fantasy production. If you're
Mm-hmm.
getting him right now, he's the 28th running back overall. Uh, Tony Potter's like 88th overall average draft pick. So you got to say you're getting this guy in like the ninth round. And so even if he doesn't hit 1,000, because he's going to be in a timeshare with Tajay Spears, who's getting drafted even later
Yeah.
in drafts, I think you're going to get some very decent production from him, uh, either rushing or receiving, because they're going to those two running backs are going to be a big part of this offense in Tennessee, and I think at where he's drafted, you're going to get more production than you might get from some of the guys that are drafted above, who are being drafted above him.
Now, do you think they used Tony Pollard like the Cowboys used him a year before that, the year before last year?
Now,
Because more of a, I'm not gonna say a third
he-
down running back, more of a passing out
here's
of the
the
backfield
interesting
running back.
thing about him. Tajay Spears, who a lot of people are saying is more going to be the, if you will, Ezekiel Elliott, and
Yeah.
Tony Pollard to be back to his regular role. Tajay Spears had almost as many receiving yards as he had rushing. He had like 800 and something total yards. I think it was like four something rushing and like 300 and something receiving. Uh,
Mm,
so I think the thing about this is both of those guys are dual threats. They can be the.
that's true.
I don't think you're gonna call Tony Pollard the hammer kind of running back. No, I
Yeah.
don't think he's that. But both of those guys are a threat receiving and rushing, and so I think they're gonna almost be interchangeable with
Okay.
these guys. He definitely gets more to his receiving side like he did when he was with the Cowboys, and Ezekiel Elliott was actually good. But I think there's room for both of these guys to get in the 700 to 900 yards from scrimmage uh, in this offense. Both of them should be able to put those kinds of numbers. Because again, my prediction is they're both going to be really big parts of this offense because they're not going to rely on Will Levis throwing the ball. Not if they want to try to win.
Oh yeah, definitely.
No.
Uh,
Unless he's
so
throwing screens to Tony Pollard, which is why I
I
pick him
mean,
up at the end of my draft.
so you don't like the receiving core now, being that they picked up two good
They have
receivers.
Calvin Ridley there now,
Yeah. So
and
you
so
don't you don't think that makes a difference
um,
for Will Levis?
is he gonna suddenly be a good quarterback because you brought in? I mean, Nuke is still there,
Yeah.
and Calvin Ridley's there. The wide receiving group is better. I don't think Will Levis is better,
Okay.
and so the best they can help him passing is giving him short passes to like a Tony Pollard or a Tajay Spears, whoever they're throwing these screens to make that work. Or maybe I'm reading Will Levis wrong, but
I
I
mean,
don't think I
I
am.
was just asking because
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not a big Will Levis fan, but
yeah,
I know they brung in some
yeah. They
weapons
did bring in
to help.
some
So,
weapons, so as long as Calvin Ridley doesn't get suspended for gambling anymore, it should help.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that should help. I'm gonna give you one. It's a tight end though, and I
Oh,
think
I wasn't
he's
expecting tight ends to come out of this. Who
he's
you got?
underrated. He's gotten you 90. I want to say 95 receptions the year before that, and he got
Okay.
100 last year. And he's not going as high as most tight ends, and it's Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
Evan
Okay.
Ingram is to me is rated way too low for tight ends
Yeah.
for what he does.
I'm not mad at that pick. Yeah. I thought about adding it myself. Yeah.
He's a really it's I think they use him more as a receiver in
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville. Um, so I think that's why he get a lot of targets like that. So he'll get even more targets now because Calvin
That's
Ridley's
as
not
we
there.
just mentioned exactly. Calvin Ridley's now there. So
Um, I think he should be in, and it's just me, at least in that top four. I mean, because I'm looking at now, they got
mm-hmm.
Laporta, Kelsey, they got Trey McBride, which I think is you can say Trey McBride, but I don't know because Ingram has done it consistently for the last 2 years, and for me, it's like you gotta take a look at that because that's important. Consistency is very important. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he deserves to be a little bit higher than he's rated, in my opinion. Because if you're getting 100 receptions, between 95 and 100 receptions for your tight end, and you can get Ingram late,
Yeah.
I mean, like super late in most drafts,
And if he gives you touchdowns, which he is known for doing, I'm
yeah,
especially if you don't want to put the draft stock and get
in
a
a tight
Travis
end.
Kelsey or a Sam Laporta. Yeah,
Hmm.
Evan Ingram. And I think I said this on one of the shows recently. I go Evan Ingram before I jump at Mark Andrews because I think he's that good, and
Yeah.
he's been more consistent. So
I mean, I would even go over Kittles. I would go over
yeah, I would
Kittles.
too. You're right.
I mean, because Kittles is giving you 65 targets, well, 65 receptions a year, maybe 65, 70. Anytime you get in triple digits from any position as far as like a
Yeah,
receiving threat, especially at tight end where you can get him, like I say, you can get him late. And I don't know what round he been going in, but you can probably get him like kind of late in most drafts because you ain't reaching for the Laportas, you ain't reaching for the Kelseys or the
right.
McBrides or the Andrews. You can get him as probably your 6 or 7 tight end off the board,
Yeah.
which
You nailed it. He's the seventh tight end average draft position. Evan
yeah,
Ingram is
so
the seventh tight end. He's going around the, depending on your size, really sixth, seventh round.
that's
So
crazy
yeah,
for somebody that's gonna get you right at 1,000, 100 receptions,
yeah,
5 or 6 touchdowns. Yeah, for me that's I'm I'll wait for that. I'll wait for a tight end if that's the
not
case
mad at that.
because the premium you're gonna pay for a Laporta and a Kelsey and a Kittles and a Brad and all
You're
those
going
guys
first,
is
second round for
oh my
Laporta
gosh,
and
it's
Kelsey. You're probably
too
going
high.
third round for Trey McBride because once Kelsey and and Laporta off the board, Trey McBride's gonna be the next name people go for. So you're gonna pay a high premium for all of. There's gonna be a run on tight ends. You can sit it back and hopefully grab Evan Ingram when all
Yeah,
the smoke clears.
I mean I'm gonna throw another one on top of that is a
Okay.
Kyle Pitts is another one.
Yeah, because of how bad things have been the last couple of
Hmm.
years, you're getting him at a discount too.
And I've seen a report that they're going to play him at
If
receiver, which
receiver,
I've
yeah,
been saying
that
for
makes you
years.
exactly. I about to say you said it since he's been drafted.
Play him at receiver,
Yeah,
like he was a receiver in college. And people don't understand if you go back to Florida, he was a receiver initially. in
Hmm.
Florida. He just couldn't get on the field because they had so much talent ahead of him. So he went to tight end, which was a smart move in his part. But play him at receiver where he don't block well. Like
Hmm.
obviously that's a known fact, but he is a receiver.
Yeah.
He's built like a receiver, so it's like play him at receiver. So put him on the edge. I ain't saying play him at the X,
Yeah.
but I'm just
See
saying
what
like put him in the slot. Something
see what he can do.
he would destroy a third cornerback. I mean, he gonna blow past a linebacker. So
Hmm.
it's like, okay, what are we doing here? Between him and Ingram, like you can get those two tight ends
Yeah.
fairly late, and
By
it's like,
comparison, yeah.
yeah, like, and then you'll be fine going into the season with the tight end. Because honestly, man, I used to be a guy that went tight end heavy early.
Jimmy Graham. You
Jimmy
you
Graham,
were one of the first people I know on the Jimmy Graham train.
and they didn't know who Jimmy Graham was. And it was like,
Yeah.
yo, who is Jimmy Graham? I was like, you will see when he played. And Jimmy Graham for like 2 years was like the best tight end in the league. And then he just fell off somehow. I don't know
Yeah.
what happened.
Injuries
But
got him too.
yeah, but I used to do Kittles at one point early.
Hmm.
I was doing Mark Andrews early, and then I got to the point where it's like
But
you can get.
but you never did Travis Kelsey early, and I don't
I,
understand why you just
yeah,
just
I
slipped up.
never did why. I don't know why either. Well, you know what? I
Yeah.
tried. Sometimes it's just like people would go get Kelsey
Yeah.
so early. I'm talking like, especially in our leagues,
Yeah.
like they would go get Kelsey in the second round, man. In a quarterback heavy league, they go and get Kelsey just because they want that big tight end. It's like,
Hmm.
do I want that? I ain't paying for that premium no more because even
Yeah.
if you went Ingram or Kelsey, I mean Ingram or Pitts, Jake Ferguson, I mean you still got.
Yeah. There's a lot. I say this that you probably won't catch me doing a lot of the high tight end because there's a lot of guys you can get late this year that I actually like uh,
Yeah.
as a potential. Because look, you're not getting other than the Travis Kelsey or a Laporta, you're really not gonna get wide receiver number from your tight end anyway. Those are the only two guys that I really think can consistently give you those kind of wide receiver numbers. And we've only
I
seen
mean,
Laporta do it 1 year because it was his
I mean,
rookie
honestly,
season. So yeah,
I really think
waiting for me is good.
even with ink pits, I feel like you get wide receiver numbers with by getting them late. I mean, because in your last year, if you look at it, he
Hmm.
gave you a hundred. Maybe if I'm wrong, but 105 receptions last year, 900 and some yards, couple touchdowns. That's some second receivers on most
Yeah,
teams. So he gave you wide receiver numbers at a tight end slot where probably you didn't expect it,
yeah.
and and you did work. So I'm saying like you
Yeah.
don't have to.
He was
You can kind of punt on it if early if you want to.
not mad at that.
So
I got one more underrated, and if you didn't much care for my Tony Pollard pick, you're probably not gonna care for this one either. And I've gone to this guy many years. This is see, I'm the guy at the slot machine. I'm gonna keep pulling this lever until it pays off. Najee Harris, baby.
why do you keep doing this to
I
yourself?
keep doing it because I'm a
Why?
believer. Hey, guess I said Tony Pollard was 1,000 yard rusher last year. So was Najee Harris, 1,000 yards in a terrible offense. But this year,
Ugh.
I talked bad about Arthur Smith, but Arthur Smith was the offensive coordinator with Mr. Derrick Henry, and Najee Harris, I've been saying, is Derrick Henry light. I think Arthur Smith is boring enough that he's gonna run this ball with Najee. I know people are like Warren's a threat to take his job. Blah 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 blah. Najee is an Arthur Smith running back, and he is going to smash mouth this thing and bring my man Najee Harris back to where he belongs in fantasy football lore. Right now, Najee, I was looking at it earlier.
Who you high on that
I,
boy?
I,
Lord
I
have
love me
mercy.
Najee Harris. I can't look. I'm gonna go Brokeback Mountain on you. I wish I knew how to quit him.
Lord have mercy.
But
I'm sorry.
uh,
That was funny.
Najee Harris is my dude. And I
Oh my
know
gosh.
if our third man is paying attention, or he comes back and he hears that I said this, he's gonna hate on me because he always hates that I keep picking Najee Harris. But
Gotta
Najee,
stop. Gotta
hey,
stop picking them, man.
he gave you 1,000 yards when he barely had the job last year, and for the first half of the season, Matt Canada didn't even want to use the guy. Arthur Smith is going to give him the 20 to 25 touches a game
Mm,
that he
mm, mm.
deserves. And one of these years, I'm going to be right. And this is the year. Najee
Okay.
Harris, underrated.
Woo. I'm gonna give you my last one, and this is a super underrated guy.
All right. Who
Um,
you got?
but the stats don't lie. I'm a big numbers guy, so the stats don't lie. Uh, Rashid Shaheed
Not bad, okay.
is, if you go back and you look at where he finished at last year, he finished number 20 in our league,
Mm-hmm.
and that was
When you say
in
our
receiver.
league, when we play in like 8, 9.
In the barbershop. You say the
Okay, there
barbershop.
you go.
He finished number 20 in the
Yeah.
barbershop among receivers. So, and that's when he was the number 3 receiver, kick returner, punt returner
Yeah.
on that team. He's the number 2 this year, plus the kick returner, plus the
Yeah.
punt returner. I'm just saying, and people may sound, they may think I'm sounding crazy, but he could finish with all of that stuff being done, kick return, punt return,
Yeah.
even at 800 yards receiving, say 800, maybe 900, because a lot of it's there, but a lot of it gonna get his
Alavi's
because
going to be the number one guy.
he's the number
But
one.
but but who's the number 2 wide receiver on that team?
Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah.
So he's the number 2 because it's there's nobody else there to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the number 1 receiver. I mean, the number 1 kick returner and punt returner in a new rule. So it's like you can get him probably undrafted.
Yeah,
If
I was about to comment. If you look at his ADP, Rashid Shaheed is going to be on waiver wires most of your listeners.
Yeah.
If you throw him out as your except for in your really big, like maybe 16 team
Mhm.
leagues, he's going to be there for you to grab it with your very last pick, and you
Yeah.
can do a lot worse. I think that's a really big sleeper pick. I like it.
I think because I feel like he's gonna do some real good numbers this year, and I think a lot of people are gonna estimate what he did. Because if you watch him last year,
Mm-hmm.
he did some numbers last year.
Yeah.
Oh
You
gosh,
can't really rely on him on like a week to week basis, but as a flex guy or as a bye week fill-in, you can't really do much better.
nope. Especially if you got any center return game in your league,
Yeah.
he is definitely the guy you want.
He could be the next Darren Sproles, the guy we talked about earlier in the show.
I tell
Yeah.
you, it's like I said to start him,
Yeah.
but the thing you just don't know. You don't know do something. It's just he does bring a game where he don't. But it's like
But if you got him
in
on your bench,
bench.
you're ahead of people that are going to rush and try to put in these waiver requests when they see that big game coming.
Yep, that's the thing. You always have your bench. You want to have your bench that you again if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody hurt, you doing. So
He's one of those ceiling guys. The floor can be low, but the ceiling can be extremely high. And that's really, like I said, this is a very late round pick that you're doing. So you get somebody. You're going to get somebody.
just think about it. Running,
Mhm.
he's 57.
Yeah.
You got Mike Williams, who's always hurt now. Brandon seen a good cooks in the years. Yeah, Joshua Curtis, James, like these guys, like he finna guys like
Mhm.
hey, no, this he right with the dogs
Mhm.
20. So expect it. Like you in the league us with 10 teams around at 18 somewhere like now higher. That's more of your teaching, but you
Yeah.
know they go around. I'm like 14 down.
Drive him as ADP. It'll be worth
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Don't go crazy. I'm just saying he that could be official for this. You lose him. Now him last my third we receiver in the bar because my receiver this week he get numbers. I'm upset about.
Not mad at all. And I'll say this in closing about him: if your league does return yards, you crazy not to grab him. that is ADP.
I think return y'all last year like Madrid.
I don't remember, but it was significant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
just about it now. He one of
And he wasn't too shabby with his receiving yards. Like I said, he did so.
nope.
Even if you don't
That
return,
read
even if you don't get the return yards, the yards is enough to time him out at the end of the draft.
like it's very different. Like
Exactly.
the reason they Thomas
And if you very hard to have a better second year with New Orleans than his first year, which wouldn't be too hard to do. You can see that. So,
like and he another him and Reed have a feel. So it's you bad things. That's
well, so, hey, we give you we've done the right draft, overrated, underrated. So hopefully you took some notes. I hear some social media, put comments in the chat, and we'll be glad to try to get back with you.